250 million people. Pakistan is now the 5th most populous country on earth, and every year it's adding millions more.
I think this high fertility rate is a very major challenge to Pakistan's development.
At a time where many nations are worried about declining birth rates, Pakistan faces a wholly different problem. Its population may be growing faster than the country's ability to sustain it.
अब आबादी बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है, ज़मीनें जो है वो इलाके में फसल की
25 million children are school, 40% stunted, and 11,000 women dying every year.
27 years who are graduated from universities but haven't got any opportunity.
What happens if the population pressure valve bursts?
Social unrest with the natural outcome.
And is time running out for Pakistan to fix it? In a small village in Banu district, located in the northwestern region of Pakistan, lives Gulzar Khan. He can't recall how old he is, but there is something he's certain of.
वो हमारा 3 बीबी है ना, वो 37 बच्चे हैं। मैं इसलिए किया फैसला, जब पैगंबर अलैहिस्सलाम को उम्मत ज़्यादा होएगा ना, तो वो अच्छा है ना, मुसलमान ज़्यादा होएगा। इसका ऐसा अंदाज़ा है, नाम होता हमारा को सबको पूरा नहीं आता है, उल्टा पुल्टा एक नाम रखता है, किसी को बल नाम रखता है। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कोई बच्चा बाहर है, कोई काम पे है, कोई इधर है, बस इतना पता लगता है कि ये काम करता है, ऐसा करता है।
Gulzar's large family might be an extreme case, but in Pakistan, large families are common. In 2023, Pakistan's fertility rate was approximately 3.6 births per woman, well above the global average of 2.4. The replacement fertility rate is 2.1 births per woman. This is the rate at which a population replaces itself from one generation to the next. Above that, the population grows.
People make decisions about number of children for many reasons. One is that they will have more hands to work for them. They will have more employable people in the family. And parents also decide that they should have at least 1 or 2 children taking care of them during their old age. So the children are sort of a pension scheme for parents too.
तफसील ये है, बच्चे ज़्यादा होएगा ना, पहला मीडिया गुलाम से ये पूछता था, फिर हमारा मुल्क में ना कोई मार नहीं करता है ना, लोग डरेगा कि बच्चे हैं इसको नहीं मारो नहीं कुछ करो ना, जैसे ज्यादा नहीं कर सकता है, बच्चे में से ज़्यादा होएगा।
Today, Pakistan is home to around 250 to 255 million people. It could add about 4 million more this year. However, more doesn't always mean better.
I think this high fertility rate is a very major challenge, rather I would say the biggest challenge to Pakistan's development, because with such a rate of growth in population and the pressure it poses on the resources, we have certainly great challenges in every field, whether it is healthcare, whether it is education, whether it is urbanization, whether it is climate change. Every area gets impacted by the burden of overpopulation.
At last year's Pakistan Population Summit, the theme was clear. From food to shelter to opportunities, Pakistan's population growth is outstripping the state's capacity to provide for its people. In 2024, around a quarter of the country was living below the national poverty line. For families already struggling, the cost of education and healthcare compounds with each addition to the household.
नहीं ये तो है ना, अभी आजकल महंगाई ज़्यादा है और पढ़ाई में पैसा लगता है, स्कूलों में जाता है पैसा लगता है, कॉलेजों में जाता है पैसा लगता है ना। अभी हमारा जो इतना आमदन तो नहीं है ना, इसलिए तो नहीं पढ़ सकता ज़्यादा।
We could say we are growing because we are a healthy economy, because we have a vibrant society, but unfortunately it's accompanied 25 million children out of school, 40% stunted, and 11,000 women dying every year. These are unacceptable. Even the Council of Islamic Ideology, when we shared these facts with them, they also said that we should support family planning or rather birth spacing between births. So they have also given their consent on that. Even they realize that there is something, we call it tawazun, balance between resources and the way we are growing.
This problem is decades in the making. In 1994, Pakistan had 6 births per woman. This fell to about 3.8 births per woman in 2010, driven by rising female education, family planning awareness, delayed marriage, and higher living costs.
The rest of South Asia had already experienced a fertility decline before Pakistan. So we thought that Pakistan has joined the rest of South Asia. There was a kind of government or societal intent that to not just to lower fertility, it wasn't to lower fertility for itself, but to catch up with the rest of the world in terms of our indicators, in terms of infant mortality, fertility rates, maternal mortality, things that count for every society.
But by the 2010s, the decline had stalled and the fertility rate has remained largely unchanged. At current rates, Pakistan's population will continue to surge for decades. The country is set to grow to over 260 million people by 2030. By 2050, almost 400 million.
Per capita income, female secondary education and infant mortality rates, they have hardly changed in the last 10-15 years. How can we expect fertility to decline when other things are stagnant, including the economy, including health, including education? We haven't done much better.
Why does population control remain difficult in Pakistan? For one, conversations about family planning are deeply sensitive. In Pakistan's conservative and patriarchal society, reproductive choices are shaped by culture and religion. Tanvir Ahmad is an Islamic scholar and deputy head of Jamia Muhammadiyah, a mosque and Islamic school in the capital, Islamabad.
इसलिए कि अल्लाह तो फरमाते हैं कि जो भी इंसान दुनिया में आ रहा है उसका रिस्क, उसकी रिहाइश अल्लाह ताला के ज़िम्मा है। अल्लाह ने उसको रिस्क भी देना है, अल्लाह ने उसको रिहाइश भी देनी है। और हम ये कहें कि हम आबादी को कंट्रोल करें ताकि वसाइल रिस्क ज़्यादा हो जाएं, आबादी और वसाइल रिस्क में तनासुब हो, तो ये तो अल्लाह ताला का काम है। जो इंसान दुनिया में आ रहा है वो अपने लिए कमाने के लिए 2 हाथ भी साथ लेके आ रहा है, वो अक्ल शऊर के साथ दुनिया में आ रहा है, वो ख़ुद भी मेहनत कर रहा है, उसको रिस्क भी अल्लाह ने पहुंचाना है, रिहाइश भी उसको अल्लाह ने देनी है, ये अल्लाह के ज़िम्मा है।
Early marriage also plays a major role. 18% of girls in Pakistan are married before the age of 18. That's more than 20 million women in total. Girls who marry young begin childbearing earlier and remain exposed to pregnancy for a much longer period. Their education is often cut short, leaving them with limited knowledge of reproductive health. Only about a quarter of married women use modern contraceptives, far below the global average.
Society should make that information available. They don't know how, 90% or something will know that there is something called family planning, but I think it's something like 30% who know where to go for such services.
Government policy has also shaped population growth.
The formula for distribution of resources is overwhelmingly tied to the population in provinces. So there is no real incentive for any province to control population, because if they control their population, if their population decreases, their share in the national resources and their share in the parliament also decreases.
The entire resources of Pakistan, financial resources, are distributed on the basis of population. The seats in the parliament is distributed on the basis of population. The jobs in the government jobs are distributed on the basis of population, and even the admission to the professional colleges are conducted on the basis of population, that is quota system. It is in the interest of every household in Pakistan to overrepresent themselves.
With Pakistan's population growing rapidly, it could be facing a very fundamental challenge: how to feed ever-increasing mouths. In the countryside of Daska in central Punjab, Liaquat Ali, a farmer, is tending to his field.
चावल की फसल उगाते हैं और गंदम की फसल उगाते हैं और चारा वगैरह ये फसलें हम उगाते हैं.
Agriculture remains the backbone of Pakistan's economy. It accounts for nearly a quarter of GDP and employs close to 40% of the workforce. Ali himself has 9 children.
3 बच्चे जो पढ़ते हैं, 3 जो हैं वो छोटे हैं, अभी वो स्कूल नहीं जाते. तो बाकी एक बेटी जो है वो शादीशुदा है, एक की शादी अभी नहीं हुई, एक बेटा मेरा जो है वो बाहर काम करता है.
As population grows, food production must keep pace. In 2023, Pakistan ranked 102nd in the Global Hunger Index. By 2025, the country had fallen 4 places to 106. This is out of 123 countries.
Our latest household income expenditure survey, which was released only a few days ago, of 2024-25, suggests that poor spend roughly 60% of their monthly expenditure on only food items, because they need to survive first.
Wheat is the main staple of Pakistan, accounting for over 70% of caloric intake. Taken as a whole, wheat yields have been increasing from about 2.7 metric tons per hectare in 2015 to over 3.2 metric tons in 2024. However, the output can vary significantly year on year.
Pakistan food security is basically in 3 realms. One, years of surpluses, then there are years of extreme scarcity. These are the 2 realms. And third is the hit by climate change. Whenever climate change hits, some of the areas face extreme food scarcity in Pakistan.
In 2022, the country experienced the most devastating flood in recent history. Last year, the deluge returned, causing severe agricultural devastation across Pakistan. In Punjab, the country's main farming belt, an estimated 60% of the rice harvest, 30% of sugarcane, and 60% of maize were wiped out. The floods killed tens of thousands of livestock and caused losses exceeding $1 billion.
उसके नुकसानात की तफसीला ये है कि जितनी भी R to Z फसल है वो ख़त्म हो गई है. यहाँ हमारे जो नीचे सारा एरिया जो है, इधर जो जितनी ज़मीनें हैं, इधर वो आगे नाला है, वो जहाँ सैलाब ज़्यादा है, उसके लिए तमाम जो है वो ख़त्म हो गई है. इधर भी सब फसलें का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ. हमारा जो खर्च है वो भी ख़त्म और आमदनी भी नहीं. और जो
Pakistan's agriculture is highly climate sensitive. Around 60% of the population depends directly or indirectly on rain-fed farming, leaving millions exposed to climate shocks. The 2022 floods put nearly a third of the country underwater. Over 1 million hectares of farmland were damaged, pushing more than 8 million people into poverty.
Pakistan is one of the top 10 climate vulnerable countries, whereas our own contribution to the global greenhouse gases is less than 1%. But we are asked to pay the price for the development of others, for the irresponsible development that others have made. And now our farmers and our poor people pay the price.
But climate change is only part of the story. As the population grows, there will be competition for scarce resources. And in Pakistan's case, it's over land.
अब आबादी बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है, ज़मीनें जो है वो कम हो गई हैं, जैसे हमारी ज़मीन कितनी कम हो गई है, इसी तरह सबकी ज़मीनें कम हो रही हैं, कुछ कहीं ये प्लॉट वगैरह बन रहे हैं, ये ऐसा.
Much of Pakistan's most fertile land lies along the Indus River plain, the same region where the largest cities are expanding. In 2017, there were 14 cities in Pakistan with more than 500,000 people. Now, there are 22. That growth has come at a cost.
मोटरवे बनाने के लिए तकरीबन 6.5-7 एकड़ ज़मीन जो है वो हमारी मोटरवे में चली गई है. पैदावार जो ज़मीन अब जो मोटरवे में चली गई वहाँ तो हमारे लिए तो कोई पैदावार नहीं वहाँ.
We have tried to build our cities, our industrial sector in the way that we actually take away resources from the agriculture and give it to the urban areas, from the rural areas to urban areas, and from agriculture to industry. And because now people do not find return on their investment in the agriculture sector, so they are selling their lands. And now the housing societies are primarily thriving on our housing policies, which do not encourage vertical structures.
The government is trying to reverse the trend.
Prime Minister formed a committee which I chaired on browning of greenlands because these housing societies are certainly making an intrusion into green fields, and our agricultural land is coming under pressure. So we have worked very closely with the provinces and we have made guidelines, and now we are promoting vertical growth of cities. So that is the future, and we are now working with the provinces that they must have stricter land zoning laws and enforcement so that we can curtail conversion of agriculture land into housing societies.
However, even in years of bumper yields, the picture is nuanced. When it comes to food, it's not just quantity, it's also quality. A varied diet is important for nutrition. While Pakistani agriculture produces cereals such as wheat and rice in abundance, this is less true for vegetables, fruit, and edible oils.
It's really a mismanagement problem. It is a policy failure in many instances. They fail to know what to produce, where to produce, how to produce, when to produce. These are the fundamental questions which the government A doesn't take interest in, B does not know how to sort of synthesize the management question.
As a result, Pakistan is importing more and more food. In fiscal year 2024 to 2025, Pakistan's food import bill reached a record $8.14 billion, up from $7.9 billion a year prior. In the first 4 months of FY26, food import value climbed over 31% from the same period last year.
That import dependency will grow, and then our people will be at the mercy of international prices. If the food prices in the international market goes up, the food prices in the domestic market will also rise.
Food inflation has been rising since COVID, reaching a record high of over 48% in May 2023. It has come down since, but is still positive.
परेशानी ज़ाहिर है, अभी रोज़गार नहीं है, रोज़गार कम हो गया तो परेशानी तो है जी. अभी उनके तलीम के खर्चे हैं जी, बहुत ज़्यादा खर्चे हैं, अपने अखराजात ही कम करते हैं जी हम.
The purchasing power is a totally separate question than the food being available in the market. There are plenty of markets in which food is available. So it's not an acute scarcity problem with Pakistan. It is the ability to purchase that food. And the high income distribution issue. You have 1% of the population, 1.5%, which is owning 60% of the wealth of the country. 70% of the wealth of the country. Then on the other extreme, you have people, who are at the lower tier of the society, which barely are going hand to mouth.
Nationwide, around 20% of Pakistan's population is undernourished. For children, the consequences are severe.
If you talk about major problem which we usually see in the children who are under 5, number one is malnutrition. And then if you talk about anemia, the more children they are anemic, they are deficient in iron.
18% of children in Pakistan under 5 suffer from acute malnutrition, and 40% of children are stunted, which means their growth is impaired. Malnutrition weakens immune systems, increasing the risk of death from preventable illnesses.
I have 2 children with pneumonia. One child who is suffering with stunting, malnutrition and anemia. And the second child, he is not malnutrition, he don't have any anemia, and he is not stunting. The recovery rate of pneumonia in that child who is well in immunity, who is vaccinated, who is not malnourished, is more rapid as compared to that child who is stunted, who is suffering with malnutrition and anemia.
What's more, undernourished mothers impair fetal development and newborn resilience, often through low birth weight and heightened infection risks.
When you have high fertility rate, there are also the problem with the mother. If a woman, she is conceiving again and again, she has more fertility rate, definitely her health, her immunity, her immune system, and definitely all these things, they will also compromise.
The pressure on food production is compounded by another crisis: water. Pakistan is among the most water-stressed countries in the world. By 2035, the country is predicted to slip into absolute water scarcity.
80% of rain comes during the monsoon. The 20% of rainfall is during the winter months. We only store a very fraction of it. Total water is about 141 million acre feet of water. What happens, you keep dividing that by the number of people, which you are adding up every year, every 5 years you add up a lot of people. So what happens, the average water availability starts going down rapidly.
Pakistan is currently in the process of building 18 new dams in hopes of reducing flooding risks and improving agricultural productivity. But until then, farmers are at the mercy of the seasons.
हाँ, पानी की कमी भी हो जाती है जी, ट्यूबवेल पानी देना कम कर देते हैं और फसलें सूखती हैं, कमी भी हो जाती है, कभी सैलाब आ जाता है तो कभी कमी हो जाती है.
Geopolitical strains complicate the water issue. Pakistan and India share the Indus River system, consisting of 6 major rivers. Governing this system is the Indus Waters Treaty, a 1960 water-sharing agreement between India and Pakistan. The treaty allocates the 3 eastern rivers almost exclusively to India and the 3 western rivers to Pakistan. About 95% of Pakistan's total renewable water resources come from the Indus Basin. In April 2025, following a terrorist attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, India announced it would hold the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance and suspended its participation. There are concerns India intends to stop the free flow of water from the western rivers to Pakistan.
Pakistan under no circumstances will allow that. Under no circumstances. We cease to exist. Simple as that. We cease to exist. You cannot walk out of it one-sidedly. India has to realize one thing, that Pakistan, when it gave the rivers, it gave these rivers with the understanding, with the assurance that this is a treaty for all times to come.
While major water cuts have not happened yet, India has stopped sharing water data which could affect crop planning and water use downstream. At the same time, Pakistan continues to grow some of the most water-intensive produce in an increasingly arid climate. The country's major cash crops, rice, sugarcane, and cotton, have high water demands.
Should a country which is according to the United Nations, is a water-stressed country. The per capita availability of water is declining. Should that country be growing water-intensive crops? The answer is no. But what should we do then? Because they are the major source of earning. Rice is the major source of foreign exchange earnings. We cannot stop growing rice, despite knowing the fact that we are a water-stressed country.
Besides food and water running low, Pakistan is also short of opportunities for its youth. Pakistan has one of the youngest populations in the world. Nearly 70% are under 30. While this should be a demographic dividend, it has become a source of frustration.
27-year individuals who are graduated from universities but haven't got any opportunity or haven't got a job or to be self-independent.
Saklan has a degree in political science, but he has been on the job hunt for over 2 years. And he's not alone. Recent labour market surveys show national unemployment at around 7%, a 2-decade peak. Youth unemployment is even higher at over 12%.
Every year, approximately 2 million young people are entering into the job market in Pakistan. And in order to provide jobs to the new entrant, not to mention in the pool of unemployed people already there, our economy should be growing in the range of 6 to 6.5% per annum.
Pakistan's economic growth is around 2 to 3% annually, not enough to absorb its pool of youths. Security challenges, cross-border tensions, and economic instability deterred investments and job creation. After foreign reserves plunged, the government turned to the IMF. But the bailout packages came with a slew of austerity measures.
And IMF believes in stabilization, not growth, stabilization. And when we talk about stabilization, there are 4 elements of the IMF program. Tight monetary policy means keep interest rate high. Tight fiscal policy means austerity, cut down your expenditure, and aggressive taxation. Third, market-based exchange rate means devaluation. And then fourth is raising prices of utilities.
Every time we have grown beyond 6%, we could not sustain that growth because we did not have a corresponding growth in exports to earn enough foreign exchange to sustain the demand of imports. Threw us into boom and bust cycles. So in order to break that cycle, the only sustained growth path for us is to focus on our exports, and therefore we are now pursuing a very aggressive export-led development strategy.
In 2025, growth stood at just under 3%. For Saklan, the weight of his unemployment is not just financial, it's also emotional.
I'm 27 years old, and a boy with a 27-year-old have a lot of burden and expectations from the family members, financially stable, who have a good job and have some earnings, sir.
Without jobs in the country, many head overseas. According to a 2023 UN report, in the preceding 3 years, 1 million skilled workers left the country. This places Pakistan among the top globally for outflow of talent.
So living country best way to make yourself independent and self-sufficient individual. I want to go to European countries, and among this, Germany is my top priority because I am witnessing that my friends, they are getting good jobs.
As per my 15 years experience, what I have seen a lot of my seniors, lot of my colleagues, and especially if we talk about my juniors almost 60% of them, they have left the country.
A majority of those who have left Pakistan head to Gulf states like UAE and Saudi Arabia. But even that route might be closing. In 2025, over 5,000 Pakistanis involved in begging were deported from Saudi Arabia. There were also over 50,000 cases of refused entry over questionable visas. As a result, some Gulf states are tightening visa rules and quotas for Pakistanis over crime and irregular migration concerns. Europe and the US are clamping down on migration at large. But that has still not stopped the hopeful from trying.
I am trying to apply for Hungary, for Germany, for Canada, anywhere else which have better political and economic stability there as compared to Pakistan.
Further upstream in education, rapid population growth also squeezes opportunities.
Nowadays, our class contain more than 70 to 80 students minimum, where the standard is for computer science is 40 students minimum, but the trend for subject is enormous. Interest of students is exploding. We have many enrollments and you cannot cope the class with such kind of big strength.
और फिर आप प्लान क्या करेंगे कि क्लिक करने पर
Schools in Pakistan are straining to accommodate the country's growing population. On average, public school classroom sizes are between 30 to 40. This far exceeds the global average of 24.
हम टेस्टिंग की बात कर रहे
With
थे
so many students cramped into a classroom, learning suffers.
Discipline is the main thing in class. When a teacher comes in class, first thing he wants is discipline, silence. But when strength is enormous, teacher cannot deliver what he have prepared because of gossips, because of noises. Last student cannot listen. They told us, sir, we are not able to attend the class properly because your delivery lecture is not, your voice is not reaching us.
In some schools, resources are stretched thin, with students crowding around scarce facilities like computers. This has a domino effect as young people progress in their education.
I'm seeing a big chaos in future. This scenario creating students which have no knowledge about which is practical, which can give some productive output in industry, in academia, or in our society. In my opinion, this scenario making students acknowledging education less important because they are not getting jobs or opportunities according to their expectations.
Between 2022 and 2023, student population grew by about 4%. One estimate found that the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province alone will need over 15,000 additional schools. Yet education spending has been stagnant, below 2% of GDP, short of the constitutional target of 4%.
Education is now given the least priority. We live in a very bad neighborhood. And when you live in a bad neighborhood, you require your defense to be strong. So you have to spend, you are bound to spend more on defense. Even if our defense spending is on borrowed resources.
As a result, over 25 million children aged 5 to 16 are out of school. 40% of the population are considered illiterate.
I would say that it is inexcusable not to find the money to educate them. And what it means is we are denying generations of children which will become young adults, without even half a start in life.
We are not generating the economy which can take care of the population. However, if we don't improve our economic output and we do not really manage our distribution of economic resources like healthcare facilities, like education facilities, and we do not provide jobs to people, then even lesser growth rate will not solve our problem.
However, Pakistan's current debt burden could make a turnaround difficult.
So if you look at Pakistan's expenditure, again for the last 5-6 years, if you look at that, what items was consuming most of the revenue of the government? Interest payment. Hardly anything left to be spent on all other infrastructure or education, health. These are all neglected sector now.
Without economic opportunities, both domestic and overseas, population growth is a looming crisis. Every year, Pakistan adds between 4 and 5 million people to its population. By 2030, the country is expected to reach around 300 million. By 2050, that number could rise to nearly 380 million. The pace of growth places enormous strain on Pakistan's resources, economy, and stability.
These days we are almost choked with measles in Pakistan in under 5 children. We are almost choked with pneumonia in Pakistan. I'm not talking about only the public hospitals. You go to any private hospital even, you don't have any bed availability of bed.
Overcrowded hospitals are a sign of a system under pressure. According to the World Bank, in 2020, the country has 0.6 hospital beds per 1,000 people. For comparison, the global average is about 3.1 beds per 1,000 people.
When you don't have family planning, you have more population. How you will tackle with the vaccination, how you will tackle with their nutrition, how you will tackle with the bed occupancy. And if you talk about human resource, doctors, nurses, they are very short as compared to the population.
At the end of 2024, the government launched an economic reform plan called Uran, meaning flight in Urdu.
For the first quarter, the GDP growth rate has come as 3.7%, which is very encouraging. So economy is coming back, but our challenge is that while our economy grows, we must also reduce the growth rate in our population. So this is now one of the centerpieces in our new development strategy under Udan Pakistan, that we must make extra effort to slow down population growth.
There are some signs of change. For decades, the legal age of marriage in Pakistan was 16 for girls, 18 for boys. Recent legislation has raised the minimum age to 18 for both, a move advocates say could help delay marriage and reduce early pregnancies.
One of the important factors is that when women they have a role in decision making, they have better education, they have better career prospects, and this is why marriage is delayed and total fertility, the number of children a woman can bear, that actually goes down.
But the reform is limited. The new law currently applies only to Islamabad. A similar law was passed in the Sindh province in 2013. However, in other provinces, the minimum age for girls remains 16, with some arguing the legislation conflicts with cultural and religious values.
कोई भी चीज़ चलानी हो, कोई भी उन्वान हो, मुस्बत हो, मनफी हो, उसके लिए उन्वान और मौजू तो उसके मुनासिब चुना जाए. हमारे यहाँ जो ज़ब्त विलादत, फैमिली प्लानिंग, बर्थ कंट्रोल, इस तरह के जो उन्वानात इख्तियार किए जाते हैं तो सराहतन कुरान और सुन्नत से मुतसादिम हैं. उन्वान बेहतर इख्तियार किया जाए अगर ज़रूरत है. बेहतर उन्वान माँ बच्चे की सेहत है कि बच्चा भी सेहतमंद हो. आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इरशाद मुबारक है कि ताकतवर और कवी मोमिन कमज़ोर मोमिन से बेहतर है. बच्चा भी सेहतमंद हो, माँ भी सेहतमंद हो. हम माँ और बच्चे के सेहत के उन्वान से तो बात कर सकते हैं.
So often we say कि it's because of the religious factor. But when we look at our surveys, very few Pakistani women will say, I am having this number of children because it's prescribed by my religion. That is a bit exaggerated, I would say, as a factor. It is a multi-dimensional problem, and one of the major things that's coming up now is the low levels of female education, but the low levels of female work participation, 24%. No society, how can you say you're moving towards development if only 24% of women are working in the labor force?
Now, the issue of overpopulation has been taken up at the highest levels in Pakistan. While the long-term goal is to bring fertility rate down from the current 3.6 to the replacement rate of 2.1, a clear timeline or target remains vague.
The Population Council does not promote a certain number as the ideal number. The belief is every family, every couple, every person has a right to have the number of children that they want. But along with that right comes the responsibility of the state and the family to also provide education, health, nutrition, ensure the survival of a mother when she has a baby. Further down the line, a right to employment, a right to a decent life. Whatever we call rights for, under our constitution.
Globally, research shows that the lack of opportunities has been linked to political violence, crime, and militancy.
Naturally, social unrest will be the natural outcome. Because when people remain unemployed, they will have a violence type of attitude in their nature. So, without addressing economic challenges, it is difficult for a country like Pakistan to become a prosperous country going forward.
To tackle youth unemployment, the government has launched Pakistan's first national youth employment policy. It aims to equip young people with modern skills and create large-scale job opportunities for young people both at home and abroad.
We must have technology foundation, and we must equip our young population with new skills for a digital economy so that they are relevant in the new economy and we don't face a mass of unemployed youth. We have to create more space and we have to expand our coverage of education sector because there were not enough classrooms to retain those students. There were not enough teachers to keep those children in school. So now provinces are focusing on expanding their spaces. They're also recruiting new teachers so that we have better student-teacher ratio so that we can retain these children. And then we are working with the communities to ensure we create incentives for these children to come to schools.
On the food front, schemes are offering financial support and low-interest loans to farmers. Pakistan is also investing in climate-resilient farming.
Recently, we have sent 1,000 agriculture engineers to China to get training in the new technologies so that we have better seeds for climate adaptation. We have better mechanization in our agriculture. We have better use of water, more efficient use of water as a resource.
However, coordinating national policies to address population pressures could prove to be a challenge. In 2010, the 18th Constitutional Amendment devolved power from the federal government to the provinces, giving provincial authorities autonomy over issues like health, social services, and education.
The real challenge now lies in effective coordination between provinces and federation. When the devolution was done, it was thought that if any area has been devolved, then federal government has no role with that, and therefore most of our social services became very fragmented, and we have not seen a more kind of a coordinated action in areas which were devolved. So now our government's approach is to not reverse devolution, but to play the role of a coordinator.
Pakistan's greatest strength may also be its greatest challenge. A young, growing population could be a powerful demographic dividend, a vast workforce, rising consumption, and long-term economic potential. On the flip side, the demands of more people place ever-increasing strain on limited resources. As a result, Pakistan's population boom has become a paradox, a source of both hope and pressure.
When our population dominates, it basically convert opportunity into crisis. So it's really frustrating and really a situation of crisis when we look around that number of students as well as my friends are jobless.
तो हमारी सूरत हाल ये है, बजाय इसके कि हम करप्शन ख़त्म करें, बजाय इसके कि हम यहाँ कोई रोज़गार के मौके पैदा करें और हम ये सारा मलबा इस पर डाल रहे हैं जी आबादी ज़्यादा हो रही है। तो आबादी ज़्यादा हो रही है तो आप किस मर्ज़ का इलाज है, किस मर्ज़ की दवा है, आप क्या कर रहे हैं, आपने यहाँ क्या किया है, आपकी ज़िम्मेदारियाँ क्या हैं।
Inshallah, children are a blessing, and why not? But what we want is that people who are already born in Pakistan should not face additional pressures. We are adding to the population, we are adding to the pressure, we are not even able to provide what we owe to our current generation that's already born in Pakistan.
If people think that it is not possible to have a decent life without having more than two children, people will not decide like this. So rather than helping them have a better quality of life through better economic and political and social management, you are asking them to have less children, so you will ultimately make families worse off. So you have to really work on your fiscal policies, your education, health policies, so that this country becomes a symbol of hope for them.
Internationally, everybody is telling us, hit hard on this. Pakistan cannot develop if its population explosion is going to continue like this. It's not humanly possible.